Since NCIS Origins is set in the NCIS universe, which centers on the Naval Criminal Investigative Service NCIS, Gibbs' employment with NIS in the prequel series may seem confusing. For the 1991 prequel, Leroy Jethro Gibbs and Mike Franks are bringing back the classic NCIS characters. Although Gibbs and Franks are still technically employed by NIS, the agency is an extension of the federal NCIS agency, which was previously reorganized. How much NCIS has evolved over the last 2 decades is reflected in the spinoff. Pre-computer technology is used by the NCIS Origins characters, emphasizing how Frank's team functions in a bygone period. Relegated to CD players, corded phones, and bulletin boards, supporting characters such as Special Agent Lala Dominguez and NCIS franchise alum Vera Stickland highlight the difference between Gibbs' Major Case Response Team MCRT and Mike Franks' team in the NCIS Origins story. The acronym that unites the teams, however, may be the most obvious distinction between them. NCIS mythology states that the Naval Investigation Service was renamed the Naval Criminal Investigative Service. According to the first season of NCIS, Gibbs joined the agency in 1991 and remained until 2021. He also participated in the agency's reorganization at some point in the 1990s. Gibbs' NCIS career is defined by the agency's restructuring at the time of his arrival. Compared to NCIS, the agency goes through more changes, although the TV series largely captures the pattern the organization adopted in the 1980s and 1990s. Since it was simpler to simplify for television, the decision to focus on the single change from NIS to NCIS makes the argument. Furthermore, the NCIS story's transition from NIS to NCIS fits the terminology popular at the time for the organization while reducing actual events with minimal impact. Since the agency's redesignation to NCIS occurred shortly after Gibbs joined the squad, the show may mirror that event in NCIS Origins. More changes are made to NCIS in the actual world than to the transition from NIS to NCIS. The Naval Investigative Service was created by the Office of Naval Intelligence following World War II. In its early years, the NIS primarily focused on espionage and sabotage investigations. In 1985, it underwent its first renaming as the Naval Security and Investigative Command. During this period, the agency's responsibilities expanded to include overseeing a larger national security program. Nevertheless, the agency would go through a couple more transformations before becoming NCIS. The Naval Investigative Service Command NISC was the new name given to NSIC in 1988. There was some misunderstanding about the agency's name at this period. The command component was added to designate NIS headquarters, but the organization was still known as NIS in the late 1980s and early 1990s. The discrepancy in NCIS Origins may be explained by the little difference between the service's 1991 moniker and its official designation. The tailhook incident led to another reorganization of the agency in 1991 to 1992, creating the current Naval Criminal Investigative Service NCIS, which is represented by Gibbs, a practice of Mark Harmon. In reality, early in the 1990s, NCIS evolved into its current structure. The NCIS Origins tale takes place during the same period as the agency was going through its final redesignation, so in some ways, the prequel depicts the changes that occurred within NCIS at that time. The makeover of NCIS was finished in 1992, which is also when NCIS Origins is set. As a result, NCIS can develop a story about the controversy, including how Gibbs' NCIS career is impacted by the change. The choice of the franchise to depict the change in the agency is commendable, even though there is more behind the scenes than is described in NCIS. The early 1990s name changes for NCIS were a reflection of broader reforms the agency was making. Chain of command problems and poor investigative methods led to the restructuring of NCIS. In general, NCIS changed in the early 1990s, becoming a more civilian organization with a larger number of individuals who were not formally affiliated with the armed services. As a result, Stowell's Gibbs is situated within the organization at a time when the focus is shifting from military to civilian matters, echoing Gibbs's change in NCIS Origins.